everybody, this is Cheri at djsundry.blogspot.com, and today we are making Christmas tag number 2. Now, I have to tell you, I'm super excited about this tag, so we are just going to dive in and get into it. First of all, I want to tell you that I made my tag out of white daisy cardstock. This is my tag base, and I used the tag bag boxes and more cartridge image. I actually did it in the design space. This is not the tag that I did for the bulk of the cards because I miscounted and I ended up pre-making all of the cards, so I will show you that one when we're all done. But this is just an extra tag that I had so that I didn't have to cut a new one. So then the image that I'm using today is from the Doodle Charms cartridge, and I also used an image from the gingerbread cartridge. Again, I did it in the design space because I manipulated the image from the gingerbread cartridge a bit, so we'll get back to that in a little bit. Now, some of my distress pads are, well, most of my distress pads are quite old, and so I pulled out the Distress Refresher and refreshed my pads, and it seemed to work fairly well, so I'm excited about that. On the tag we're making today, I'm using broken china and faded jeans inks, but I also pulled out the black soot, but I decided after using it on one or two that I really liked it better without it, so we're not using that one today. I also used some midnight blue stickles. We'll talk about that in a bit. I have some sheer kind of organza ribbon. It's 7/8 of an inch that we're using for our tag topper. We're also using white daisy ink from Close to My Heart. I used this distress marker, Festive Berries. I set that aside, and then I used my homemade Perfect Pearl spray, where I just took water and added Perfect Pearls to the bottom. As you can see, I am almost out of this and it'll be time to make more, but I love the effect that this has with the distress. In addition to using the white daisy cardstock to cut my image, I also used this metallic jewels from Tim Holtz paper, and I used the black. You'll see that in a little bit. And then I have some glue here from Close to My Heart, and then I use the Fallen Star stencil from Simon Says Stamp. So let's get started, and we're going to start with our tag base and our two distress inks. So what I did with these is I pulled them out and I just did some fading on them. So I started with the lighter color, which was the broken china, and I kind of just went around the edges and then kind of moved up into the tag, just like what you see that I'm doing here, just blending it in. And that just kind of laid down my beginning base. Then I took my faded jeans and pulled that into the center, and then I blended them together, and I just went back and forth on these, and I'm doing this rather quickly, but on the main tags I just went back and forth until I had the color that I wanted. Now I am making actually a snowman tag, so I kind of liked the darker tag, but again, in some of the tags I use black around the edges, and I actually started with some of the tags, and instead of going all the way around the edges with the broken china, I just did the bottom with the broken china and then faded into the blue jeans and then into the black soot. But when it was all said and done, I really liked the way that this turned out better by doing it this way. So I wanted it to be fairly dark, not midnight dark, but enough to just show that it was dark, and faded that all in just similar to that. So just very simple, a little bit, I don't know if you want to use the term organic, but just a simple fade and blend in of those colors. Again, making the darker color be the dominant with the lighter blue, just to provide a little bit of lightness and brightness in there. And that was all I did for that particular part. So I want to close these up because, like I said, they're old and they wear out quickly. So then that's when I took my Perfect Pearls my Perfect Pearls spray. And remember that if you're using distress inks or distress oxide inks, they're designed to work with water. And this is where the magic starts happening with this. So I shook it up a little bit and I held it back, and then I just gave it a couple sprays. Now, If I was closer, there would be some larger water droplets on that, and that would be pretty too. But now what happens is that Distress ink just interacts with that water, and you can almost see it happening on camera. And you can see the little droplets and stuff come up, and it just starts to make it feel like a kind of a snowy background. So I could pull out my dryer and dry that off. I mean my heat embossing tool, but it actually, because I use so little of it, it actually will not take long at all for it to dry. So I'm going to set that aside. I'm going to clean off my mat, and then we'll move on to something different, and then we'll come back to that once I'm sure that it's dried. So let's just set that aside, clean all this off. And this mat has definitely seen some love in the last little bit while I was making these tags. So that also is going to have to dry a little bit as we're moving that off. And I just use baby wipes usually to wipe it off, and then I can go back over with a dry cloth, which I keep really handy right next to me, just to make sure that it's all nice and dry. So moving that on, now I want to fill this. This is dry enough now for me to take the next step, and I know it looks like even on camera you can kind of see, it looks like it's trying to focus a little bit, but you can kind of see that droplet, but it doesn't quite do it justice as what it looks like in real life, because not only are there those water droplets, but they have that sheen and that sparkle of the perfect pearls. So I am going to do another quick thing. We're going to talk about our image before it's probably dry enough to work on, but we'll let it dry a few more seconds while we talk about our image. Now this is a little snowman that I cut, and it came from Doodle Charms, which, if you looked at the back side of it, let's put this up here, you can see that it actually has a topper to be the charm. Well, that's great, except for I don't need it there. So I just simply took my scissors and snipped it off. Probably could have snipped it before I ever cut it. I use craft cardstock, also from Close on My Heart, for the back side. You can see I didn't get this one particularly lined up perfectly. So let's see, I've got another one over here. Rather than taking the time to trim that one off, we'll just kind of trim him off. Now this was a very, very simple snowman. If you're familiar with the Doodle cartridge, you're aware of that. It has no hat, which I thought he kind of looked a little bit naked, so that's where I put up his hat. He also only had the layers that had the orange carrot nose, and then the brown, and then the white. And so I thought, you know, I really could use some black tiny jewels or something to use as his buttons and eyes. I didn't have any black stickles or any black pearls or anything, liquid pearls or anything like that. So I pulled out blue stickles, and I thought, you know what, this midnight blue is just fine. And so I just dotted where his buttons were and where his eyes were, and then I took my red pen here and just put a slash over where his mouth was. Now on the image itself, each one of those things were cut out. There was a little line for his mouth, and there were little holes for the buttons and the eyes, and so all I had to do was follow that, and so there he was. Then for his hat, I took this image from the gingerbread cartridge, which is a tall hat. I don't know, it's kind of a small image. It's very, very Christmassy. It reminds me of something you would expect to see on a snowman, but I didn't want all of that detail. I thought about it, but I decided I didn't want that. So I took this image in the design space and I kind of smashed it down. I didn't want the tall top hat. I unlocked it so that I could create different dimensions, and I pulled it apart so that it would fit him a little bit better. So then he has a hat right like that. I'm going to set him aside because we'll need him in a minute. And then I went to, I pulled this stencil out, and I covered it over the top, and I kind of positioned it because I didn't care so much that there were stars over here kind of in the, originally I planned to set him more in the corner, so I really didn't care that there were stars over there, but you can do it however you want. If you cover up the stars, it's really not that big of a deal. And I have to tell you, when Close to My Heart changed their design on their ink pads, it was a wonderful day, because these ink pads are not always very easy to open. So I took this white ink pad, and I just have a little makeup sponge here, and I sponged it up really well, and I held it down, and then I just started dabbing over my stars. Now, because I'm working it in there fairly well, but it is very, some of the stars end up being darker, some of them end up being brighter, and that is perfect for this tag, because again, the stars are not the focus, it's our snowman that's going on top of it. And so I really liked where sometimes they were darker, sometimes they were lighter, and I pulled it away. In this particular one, you can even barely just see the stars. And it was interesting because some of them you could see them really boldly, other ones you could barely see them, but it was just perfect because again, it's not about the stars. So then we're ready to attach our snowman, and our tag's almost done. Again, this is a super tag, but it has such a pop of impact, shall we say, just because it ends up being so fun and so pretty. Without being, it would be perfect for a kid, but an adult might find it fun as well. So I just stuck them down just like that. And I thought about going back, I'm going to get a different one because that one has some glue on it. I thought about going back and stamping on top, Merry Christmas or something. But by the time it was said and done, I decided it was just busy enough, even though right here it doesn't look super busy. But by the time it's done, it's busy enough that the stamping would make it too busy. So there we have our cute little snowman and his hat. And then I took just a piece of that ribbon, and I'm going to show you, I have one end cut and ready, the other end I don't, and the reason why is because I'm going to show you how I cut that once I get it run through. And this particular one, I decided I'm not going to use it like a hang tag. I am literally going to tie it in a bow, and I just love the way that turns out when I do that. So I just tied it just like so. And I can see I did it backwards because I'm probably going to end up with one way too short. You can always untie and retie, right? Now I cut my ribbon a little bit long on purpose because I wanted to be able to have the ability to manipulate that bow and make it just what I wanted it to be, and then I could come back and trim off. I didn't want to have too much waste, so it's kind of a fine line that you're dealing with there. I wanted to have enough that I could manipulate, but not so much that I would waste a lot. So as it ends up, I'm going to end up cutting both sides. So what I did is I just fold it in half, and then from the outside edge into the fold, I cut up, just like that. Again, I'll fold this one in half, and then from, this is a little awkward from that angle, I hold it between my fingers, and then from the outside edge to the inside edge, I fold up. And there we have our pretty little tag. And when that dries, when that snowman hat dries, it sticks really well, and I did go over them a time or two to make sure because of the, since it was going over the top, made sure that it really adhered well, but I just gave it a few minutes and went back and did that. And there we have today's tag number 2. So I hope that you enjoyed that. I hope you will try making some of your own. And again, you don't have to have these products to do it. You can use what you have, just like what I did. It might mean you're improvising and using blue stickles instead of black, but that's okay. Here's some of the others that I did. This is one that I used a little bit of the black with, and that one actually turned out really well, and you can see the stars really against that. Well, this one I felt had a little bit too much black in it, which this may be the one where I decided, you know what, I don't think I'm going to put the black in here anymore. So as you can see, no two tags are identical. But they're all really fun, and they will look great on somebody's Christmas package. So thanks so much for stopping by today, and remember, take some time to enjoy the little things. Have a great day. Bye. I remembered after I stopped the video that I forgot to show you the original tag base that I used for the other 10 tags that I made. So I just wanted to pull that out and show you that. This one, this tag base was actually made, it was a leftover tag base that was designed from last week's tag, and that was using the Joys of the Season cartridge, and I kind of manipulated it a little bit in the design space. But the tag that I made for both of them, you can kind of see here on the back. This one is from Tags, Bags, Boxes, and More, and it has that kind of fun kind of half circle on the top, and it's more rounded instead of more squared on the edges. And when I originally chose this tag, I hadn't decided that this was how I was going to do the ribbon. And so I really liked the way the feel of that tag went for this particular snowman tag. And I love snowmen. I didn't mention that, but I just wanted you to see that it is a very different tag, and I actually like this shape tag better. It gives me a little bit more space to work with, and I just think the snowman fits on it a little bit better. So anyway, this is cut at 4 inches in height. And so when you manipulate the height, I think that ends up being about 2.373 inches in width. I will tell you that in the description below is a link to the blog, and on the blog I've put links to the cut files for the tag within the Cricut design space. So if you wanted to use this tag, as long as you've purchased those images, you could go in and all of the cut files are there and the work's been done for you. So that is another thing I wanted to let you know about. And finally, I also forgot to mention, don't forget that we're doing a giveaway. And if you go ahead and leave a comment below, and you can also comment on the blog as well. The more times you comment, the more chances you have to win these cartridge or a set of these tags. And I haven't decided yet if it'll be probably 2 of each tag will be in the set, maybe 1. It just depends on how the set kind of forms up, but the more times you comment, the more chances you get to win a set of these tags. So again, thanks so much for stopping by today. And remember, take some time to enjoy the little things. Have a great day. Bye.